I'm going to talk about techniques for developing directory and marketplace sites with WordPress. Basically, it's the same thing, just people refer to it slightly differently. My name is Amir Helzer, and I started a company called On The Go Systems. We produce plugins for WordPress. We make WPML, some of you may have heard of it, and also toolset plugins. It's another product line we started a few years ago. I use WordPress a lot, but I'm not a PHP developer. I can program in other languages, but kind of read PHP, but not a lot more than that. Yeah, I lost. Okay. So, let me ask you about you a little bit. Who here builds websites? Okay. Who creates themes? And everyone here is from Czechoslovakia or different place? Who's from Czechoslovakia? Okay. Good. I'm not. Okay. So I think this is relevant for you. So, did anyone here get any requests anytime to build a directory site for someone, a marketplace site? Okay. Okay. The reason I'm talking about marketplace sites, no, sorry. The marketplace site, what it does. So there are different marketplace sites on the internet. Some of them are to sell products, some to sell services, hiring, work for hire, just to sell information. We have a few examples here. Probably most of you know about eBay. That's a marketplace site. Uber, that's a multi-billion-dollar company. Their marketplace, their product is transport, right? We have people who want to drive you, other people who want to get there. Uber is the marketplace. Odesk, it's a marketplace for work. Airbnb, it's a marketplace for accommodation. And Craigslist, basically, a marketplace for everything. And we get a lot of requests from clients, requests from support, requests for information. And many times people have need to build a site, and it turns out to be a marketplace site, a directory site, even though a lot of the time it's not defined like this. For instance, maybe you wouldn't necessarily define Airbnb as a marketplace site, but for our purpose, we're talking about how to build sites that have all the components for building a site like Airbnb. Of course, maybe not a multi-billion-dollar site like this with all the features, but all the basics. So the reason people are interested in marketplace sites is because the site is the middleman. You have the client on one side, you have the provider on the other side, and the site makes money. So it takes a commission, there's a price difference. But people are interested in marketplace sites because these are typically businesses that make money. And I'm not a big expert on marketplace sites, but my experience comes because we recently, in the last year or so, we had a big project on developing such a marketplace site, a directory site, with our plugins. So this is how I got to know the material. We have Agnes here who knows the material very well, Dario. So I'm not going to be able to talk about everything that marketplace sites do, and I don't want. I'll just talk about what I know from our experience building such a marketplace site. A marketplace site includes, most marketplace sites would include several main elements. It's all about the content, firstly. So there's content submission. You'd have typically forms that people fill in order to create content. For instance, on Odesk, these forms would be to create projects. Okay? So you probably have some sort of content type for a project. A person who looks for work would submit a form that creates new project definition. Other people would submit their forms as quotes or replies to this. But most definitely, we need to have content submission. And once this content is submitted, it's going to sit in the database. Nobody's going to see it unless we display. So every marketplace site will have some way to display content. Another critical thing in every marketplace site is a way to search through content. You understand that content is not going to be very organized. Okay, it's not like a blog where it's sequential, and or a news site. People would read one article after the other. Every day there's a new article that's relevant for today. So search becomes a very critical component of that. People need to be able to quickly find what they're looking for according to their needs. So sometimes you browse by category, sometimes you need to search by keyword, sometimes you look by specification. For instance, if you're doing a marketplace site for an auto dealership, maybe you're looking for a model or a price range or how much kilometers that car has driven. But content search is a major part of any marketplace site. And together with search, content needs to be organized also. Organizing content in the database would make it searchable later on. And besides content, almost every practical marketplace site would have what usually becomes custom logic. So when we talk about application logic, we mean the specific things that only this site does. Okay? So while most marketplace sites will have everything related to content, submitting, displaying, searching, and organizing content, every site will have its own custom logic, its own application logic. For instance, if you're doing the auto dealership car, then maybe you decide that every time a new car is added to the database, you want to send information to agents or things like that. So we refer to this as the application logic. And in many cases, we would also have user accounts and payments. Again, if the site is supposed to make money, some money is supposed to come in. And you most necessarily want to know who posted different information and allow them to get back to it and edit it later on. Okay, so content submission, you create forms, okay? And the forms display on the site's front end typically. And this content goes into the WordPress database. We want WordPress in the last few years supports custom post types. So every marketplace site that we've seen uses the standard WordPress tables with custom post and custom fields and custom taxonomy. Who here uses custom content in WordPress? So, so not everyone uses. You know that WordPress has posts and pages, right? Okay, but if you're doing a car dealership, then a vehicle, that's not a post and that's not a page. You could save a vehicle as a post. That would make your site very difficult to manage later on, because if you also want to have a news section on the site, then it's very hard to distinguish between cars and news. So you declare a custom post type, and then you add the necessary fields to it. And now, in the same WordPress tables, you have cars, and the attributes that the cars have become custom fields. And it's stored like every other WordPress content will be stored, but WordPress knows that this entry is a car and not a post and not a page. In order to create forms that create content into the database, you need to have some code, okay? Because this isn't part of the WordPress core. WordPress doesn't come with this. There are plugins that would do that, and you most definitely should use one of these rather than inventing the wheel for your site if you're going to build a marketplace site. You will be creating a form. I hope I don't turn it off. I'm not sure how to make the light work. Okay, so you'll be creating a form, and the form will have fields that visitors see, and you want to map between these fields and what goes into the database. And we'll talk about plugins that can do this in a second. But you need to remember, as you're planning such a site, you need to remember that you want to support everything. So people need to be able to submit content. I'll be brave. Okay. People need to create content, and then if they have accounts, they need to edit and delete it also. Okay, so again, in the car dealership example, if I posted my car, maybe I made a mistake, so I need to edit it later on, and once I've sold it, I probably want to either change the status of my ad to sold, so people stop ringing me, or I want to delete it. So any solution that you find for creating content in the database from forms should support creating, editing, and deleting content. And most practically, you need to have data validation. I can give you an example from today, for instance. Our server got spammed by thousands of entries today in the morning because we didn't validate some data, and people flooded us with bogus entries. So you don't want to let this happen to you. And you need to have notifications. So when something happens, someone else needs to be notified. And this really depends on the kind of site that you're creating. But probably these three, that's the really basis of what you need to have content submitted from the front end into the WordPress database. Okay, in our experience, there are several great plugins that you could use to implement a structure like this, okay, which will be able to create the forms that go into the database. A lot of people use Gravity Forms. Anyone here is familiar with Gravity Forms? Okay, so that's a reasonably popular WordPress plugin. It creates forms. We have our own plugin, which we call CRED, which allows you to design forms that display on the front end for creating data in the content in the database. And of course, there are themes which do that. Anyone here ever used a theme which is specifically intended for directory sites? Okay. There are several themes that do specifically this. A company called App Themes is making Classy Press. Elegant Themes works a lot on this. And there are many other theme houses that create themes that include everything that you need. But in any case, if you're planning to create your own directory or marketplace site, I think it's a good idea to research and see where you're starting from. If you want to use a theme that does everything, or have a very basic theme that just displays nicely, and add the rest of the functionality with the plugins. Okay, so once the content is inside the WordPress database, you want to display it on the front end. Okay, just having it sit in the database doesn't mean anyone can see it. It will be visible in the WordPress admin, but not on the site actually. So you need to create templates for single pages. Again, if in the case of our auto dealership, probably every advertisement for a car will have its own page. So you need to have a single, we call these single item pages. If you look at the WordPress template system, this will be files that start with the word single. And then you want to have lists of items, like in this example here, we have a table which lists cars. And you probably want to have a little category tree, a tree that lists cars by manufacturer, by year, by whatever criteria you want to list them in, and the search. And if you open any WordPress theme, you should see templates that match these things. Again, so you could use a theme which exactly lists everything that you need, or you can use a basic theme, like a blog theme, and add these elements using plugins. Okay, a lot of people use different plugins for custom post types and fields, and there are other plugins to display content from the database. Or, of course, you could find a theme which does all of that. Okay, the content search, we talked about this a little bit. That's probably a very critical part of any directory site, because without that, we'll have a bunch of content. Maybe we'll put a Google search, and that will help people a little bit. But having a good search engine on our site typically makes a difference between a successful site and a failing site. If you, did anyone here buy a computer online recently, a PC, a laptop, something like this? I did. So I wouldn't buy my laptop if I wouldn't be able to search according to manufacturer, price range, the features that it has, too many options otherwise. Okay. And again, you have different solutions for implementing your custom search. Okay. Directory sites, directory themes typically have some sort of custom search, and plugins will also, plugins that are intended for this will also have. I keep mentioning our views plugin because this is what we use to create our own classified site. So obviously, I know that views does that. And by the way, right after this presentation, we're doing a workshop in the other room, one of the rooms over there. And we will start from zero. We'll start from a new WordPress installation. And hopefully, after 2 hours, everyone will have their own working directory site. So everyone here is, I don't know how much space we still have available, but if people are interested, they can check, and everything that we're explaining here, kind of going so quickly here, will actually start. There's no programming knowledge necessary. We'll start with a clean database, has a few sample images, and at the end, everyone will have his own directory site. Okay. Another thing that we should probably have is organize the content in the database so that we can find it later on. For instance, eBay. Everyone here knows eBay? Okay. Okay. eBay has a ton of custom categories depending on the product. Okay. eBay, Amazon. If you go to a specific, to a product family, it will have its own organization for the products. They don't use just one set of categories like you have in WordPress posts or categories or tags. They use a different organization for different kinds of content, and you can do that also in WordPress. In WordPress, custom categories will be called taxonomy. And you can create a taxonomy that looks like categories or looks like tags. and you can connect this taxonomy with the content that you're creating. Okay? So you could, even in WordPress, you could achieve something that you can see on eBay.com. Okay, so if you go to fashion, you could create your fashion categories, and you could have entries for men, women, and kids, and you can have more than one category for each product. So eBay created a category according to gender and the kind of fashion element, and inside it there are additional categories. You can create the same in WordPress also. You can create several kinds of categories, taxonomy, and connect all of them to the content that you're organizing. Again, same thing. If you're using a theme that is designed for a directory site, normally it will have a way to display a tree that lists content according to categories. Okay, so if you got a theme for fashion, I think there are a lot of very nice oriented themes. Then you will probably on the home page you will find a listing which shows the different categories. Okay, if it's men's clothing, women's clothing, this is content. So the theme wouldn't include the data inside. It will include the structure, and you put in the data. Okay, so the theme would make it like add category. That would be what comes with the theme. It doesn't put in for you the content like jewelry, okay, clothing, winter fashion, summer fashion. That's part of your content, not part of the theme. And the application logic is that's a critical part of your site. Just want to make sure I'm explaining it correctly. Who here is interested in running a classified site rather than developing it? Anyone interested in actually running, or are we talking about building such sites? Okay, so every reasonable site which will do something will have a little bit of custom code which glues things together. For instance, we had a request from a company which does law contracts, okay, lawyer companies, and they had members who would register, have accounts, and then every time that a request for a job came in, they wanted at the end of every day, they wanted to receive a PDF file sent as an attachment with at most 5 requests that came in from that day, and the link to see more. So this is something that you shouldn't expect to have in any theme. Okay, you could buy a theme which creates a directory, but there is no way in the world that you will have this kind of functionality. Okay, this is what we call the application logic, and typically the person who develops the site would have to implement this. So if you're choosing a theme for a directory, I think it would be a very good idea to start with a list of requirements about this sort of functionality, have it clearly listed, and then when you're shopping around, show this to whoever you're going to buy from, or if you're developing it, you contract a developer, you would be wise to show him this list of requirements, because knowing this list helps you choose the right solution. You could choose a theme which looks really nice and does almost everything that you need, but if it doesn't allow any extensions, then doing just this additional few % of the work would become a project by itself, and you may have to restart your entire development at the end. So when you create your own directory sites, marketplace sites, knowing the specific, the unique things that it should do, that would be a very good thing, knowing them and writing them down. And there are different ways how you could create your own application logic. Remember that an entire theme for a directory site is typically a big thing. You don't want to redo that. You want to pick a solution which allows you to extend. And in WordPress, allowing you to extend means it has hooks and filters. Hooks allow you to run your own code on specific events. Filters allow you to change specific things as they come. So in the example of the lawyer site that we had, we recommended to use a hook which runs every time new ads or new requests are submitted, okay? To run it then and to accumulate requests, and at the end of the day to also hook to the WordPress daily cron job, a job that runs every day and allows you to take your actions. But anyway, whatever solution you choose, if it has hooks that let you run different things on different times, on different events, this allows you later on to create your application logic. Who's familiar here with a plugin called WooCommerce? Right. So WooCommerce is an e-commerce plugin, allows you to sell products on your site, but it also has another very convenient feature for account management. Okay, so any directory site would typically allow people to register, to have accounts, to log into their account and change, edit content, add other things, maybe delete later on. We find it very convenient to use WooCommerce both for the e-commerce, to sell stuff, to charge money. Okay? And sometimes you're not selling a product. For instance, on our sites, we use WooCommerce to sell subscriptions. It's not a product, but as long as we need to collect money and we need to give something in return, it's an e-commerce operation. But besides this, we also use the accounts system from WooCommerce, which gives us the registration, the front-end login, so we don't need to send people to the default login page from WordPress, and also an account system. So someone, after logging in, doesn't go into the WordPress dashboard. They go into the WooCommerce account, and there they have their own lists of their stuff. On our sites, these lists are what they purchased, what they can download, they can edit their details, but they don't see the WordPress admin ever. They only see the account pages that we created for them in WooCommerce. So I recommend this also. And WooCommerce also gives us a connection with form submissions. Sorry if this is a long sentence. What happens if you want to have, for instance, free ads and premium ads? So you'll have one form that visitors or members will fill when they want to create a free ad, and you'll have another form that people fill when they create a premium ad, for example. So at the end of filling the premium ads form, a form to submit a new premium ad, you want to charge money. And we also use WooCommerce for that. We connect between products and forms. So we say that in order to completely submit a form for the content to be created in the WordPress database, you need to pay. You need to buy a product. The person who uses that doesn't feel like he's buying a product. He feels like he's completing a form. Okay, it's like create your paid advertisement. But in essence, he's doing two actions at once. He's entering all the information for the form and then paying. And once payment is complete, what he wrote on his form goes into the database. And the rest of the chain continues. So my summary from this is that, yes, you could create almost every marketplace site, every directory site that you want with WordPress, which I think is good news for us because these sites really are the core of many modern businesses. A lot of modern businesses, like we saw, like Uber, like eBay, they sit in the middle. They provide a very important service of allowing people to find what they need. Okay, this site also make money because if you solve a real problem, there's a good chance you'll earn some money on the way. And yes, you can build that with WordPress. This doesn't have to become always a multi-million-dollar project with a theme that costs not too much and with plugins that cost not too much and with some time. Later we'll see how this can happen in 2 hours. You could actually build your own marketplace site in WordPress. And there are different solutions to that. You could use a theme that does everything and then customize it. You could use a theme that just looks good and add everything that you need, all the behavior that you need to make it into a directory yourself using plugins. And you will have some programming work to do or to give to a programmer. But any solution that you find, no matter how good and complete it is, just try to take into account that there is some percentage of work that needs to be done manually. It's not going to be prepared. You're not going to receive everything you're working with just click, click, click. So like I said, Dario here is going to show exactly how this works. We're going to start with empty sites that have no content on them. They just have a theme and a few plugins installed and some images of cars. And at the end, we're going to have a very unstyled and not so nice to see, but fully functional directory site. And anyone interested can spend a little time later on CSS and making it look even better. You need to have a laptop with a Wi-Fi connection. And the Wi-Fi here works really nice. Does anyone have any questions? You don't have, it's okay. Yeah, this is my last slide. Thank you. Okay.